How does fluency affect disrespect? Hello everybody, welcome back to From Rhythm to Algorithm. You know what we're doing, trying to find our definition of sensorality. We've kind of encapsulated all of sensation and sentience into a single word that we're trying to now prove as an axiom, sensorality. Exploring the fundamental nature of language, trying to arrive at our unique definition of a physical process. And so I started off this episode with a specific question: how does fluency relate to disrespect? So I kind of had a funny realization today, but so I get a bunch of spam calls. Try to sign up for whatever service. Somehow they just send your phone number everywhere and you get a bunch of phone calls. Most of the time they're from India or from Pakistan. And so the reason I say what is fluency to disrespect is because remember, fluency is influential. Literally influential is fluent with I-N in T-I-A-L or I-A-L at the end. Prefix, suffix, fluent. So we've identified the natural definition of fluency, and then disrespect, speciality, that spec in there is speciality. But right, how does your fluency affect your ability to be disrespected? Right, when I get these scam phone calls, and they're an Indian or a Pakistani guy, and I just start swearing at them. I just start making fun of them. I'll just say random things. I'm just trolling. But sometimes they'll get angry and they'll try to cuss at me, and they'll be like, I fuck your mother, fuck your mother. Right, and I'm objectively laughing. Right, if someone's being fluent in English and they're disrespecting you, you might laugh, or you might, mitigate the situation with skittish laughter, but you're not really laughing. When somebody who's not fluent in your language starts to cuss at you or try to disrespect you, I laugh objectively. It's not even like I'm laughing at you or I'm actually frazzled. It's just I can't understand what you're saying and you're trying to tell me to go fuck myself. So it's really, I thought it was an interesting nuance, is if somebody can't articulate themselves fluently, if they can't be influential in a language, they can't disrespect you. Literally, somebody trying to be disrespectful in a language they can't articulate English well, I literally just laugh. Should I help you with your grammar, little Rakesh, so you can help me call me a faggot better or something? But it's empirically true, and I thought it was really funny. And so I just wanted to start with that, but it's true. It is fundamentally true. So vibration is static, rhythm is dynamic. A differentiation made in Breyer from our legal discourse. That's our next section there. But it's true. Right? What is static and what is dynamic? Now, reality in dimension 3, right? Static doesn't change. Vibration is static. Our basis, as is vibration. And so that doesn't change. It's static. It doesn't move. Rhythm is dynamic. But now in actuality, right? So that was the chronological one-way progression. Now we're in this open dimension 3, mass and energy exchange, they're related through equals mc squared. So everything is dynamic, but there was a base that is now set in stone. Another one of those phrases, there it is. But how about this? What is, and again, that dynamic process is your lava lamp intuition of blobs kind of floating around at the universal level and at the local level. But we'll get back to that here in a second. What is dictionary? Right? What, not a dictionary, but what is diction? What is dictionary? Dictionarity, dictionality, right? What is diction? It's the way you speak. It's your vernacular. It's your vocabulary. It's your diction. But why are there more than one? Or why do you have? My parents are playing Scrabble right now. There's a Scrabble dictionary. There's, when I type in a word into Google, what dictionary is that one? If I'm in law school and I have a legal dictionary, what's that? If I'm in language class and I have a frequency dictionary, what's that? Right? See how it's what is a dictionary? It defines a word. False. Words are already defined. And so what a dictionary is you're just associating, again, operative words that connect to one another. There is this completeness within language, whether it's direct opposition or thesis, antithesis, positive, negative, happy, sad. There's this dichotomy. So you have this natural kind of concept of opposition. And so when words emerge, these concepts emerge as one, and then they get differentiated. And so a dictionary is a formulation of diction. It's connecting operative words. But the reason you have these different emergences of these different types of dictionaries is when you try to define words, that are already defined, you're going to introduce new operative words. So it's going to redirect the logic. The same way someone's telling you a story and they'll say something and you just like go on a tangent, or you just like your head goes to another space, that's literally what's occurring. And it's because there's meaning already inherent in every word you use. And so you can't break down the concept of a dictionary anymore when dictionary is diction, right? A catalog of your diction, and those words already contain meaning. So now we can finally arrive at the fundamental theorem of sensorality. And it might not be clear why this is the fundamental theorem, but remember, we're working through an entire word family. And like everything, time passes. You start a project, it might seem really daunting at the beginning, then you get to the end and it's done. It's completely done. There's nothing else to do. And so we have to get, quote unquote, past sensorality logically. Just meaning we have to envelop this entire concept, and then it'll just spit out our next axiom. And so I'm not really sure as to why this is, but it is the fundamental theorem, prepositional phrase of sensorality. So now we have a new fundamental theorem of everything that is undeniable. And what is it? Existence is. Right? You might be saying, why is that? Well, look at the word existence, right? It's based on is. So it's a fundamental iteration of is twice. Existence literally is with prefix and suffix is. Existence is. That's our fundamental theorem of everything. And we put of sensorality, that will be, either it will be clear, it'll be useful, or I just won't return to it, and it was a bit of intuition that fizzled out and didn't really matter that much, which does happen. It's not like I'm getting sidetracked. It's not like I'm not, like I said, there's a bunch of open questions, but I said this is a whole math subject. So I'm just like speed running to like the point where I can just say this proof is done. But that is very poignant for dictionary or for existence. It's literally an iteration of is. So existence is, that's a logically complete statement, and it's just an iteration of the word is. And what is the basis of is? I. Right? All measurements, all observations come from an individual subjective person, whether it's a human being or non-human being. But it's an organism, it's an entity, it's a biological thing. And so existence is, and the base is I. And it's all really, like I said, I'm the one doing this proof, so it's all relating back to my experience because this is the vocabulary, the diction that I've been exposed to and learned. You can represent a experience or an intuition everybody knows with a lot of different words. You can very literally say all of the exact wrong words, but if you put them in the correct order or attempt or get close, people will understand your intuition of what you're saying. And so the basis is I, right? And that gives us a direct reason as to why we say existence is. And so that's a differentiation, or it's an iteration of the same exact word with prefix and suffix. And now remember, the way language develops is it differentiates. And so how do we get away from that, right? We don't say I is, we say I am, right? I am, not I is. That's why that exists. And so identificationality is sensorial. The ability to exist and have your own identity. Your feeling in your head, that's you. What you are is sensorality. And so we get to another, this is very apparent linguistically, right? Language is independent of one single person. We are developing the ontology for the whole species, right? When I say I am me, that's me identifying myself at a fundamental level. But those words are not unique to me, right? How many people could say I am me and that be logically consistent and correct? Everybody. And so when you have this generality of language with individuals discussing their life experience, you have funky kind of ways to talk about that. And the way you see that is self-identification, right? In the French language, you have mem, with a circumflex, right? Mem. Whenever you say mem, that's it's emergent or exists because you're having an individual person talk about themselves personally, but all words are generalized, all of them, all of the time. And so you see it's just some emergence of logical structure with a person talking about themselves, going from a general kind of analysis to something specific themselves. So mem, or self-identification, when you put that hyphen, right? There's very clearly groups of words where you're putting a hyphen. And all of that is kind of like emergent from the generality of language being articulated by a single individual, going from talking about general principles to you specifically or someone specifically, something's going on there with logical consistency, but it's the same with like mio in Spanish. A lot of it's just like the way you're structuring these sentences force these unnatural linguistical elements. But sensorality is identity, right? The ability to identify yourself is life, right? My pool table is not going to identify itself. My guitar is not going to identify itself, but I can say I am me. I can say I sense things and I feel things, and when I hurt or when I'm happy, when I'm sad, so on and so forth. So sensorality is identity. What is the relationship of existence and identity, right? The rock exists. Does it have an identity? What is identity more personified or objectified? Because I would say identity comes from subjectivity, right? A rock, does it have an identity? It doesn't self-identify, but it's hard, it's dense, it's on the ground, right? So we put identifiers on it. But identity is this big word that comes from sentience, from sensorality. And so you can have things that exist that don't self-identify, and then the concept of identity can be generalized. I'm sure there's another word out there. Well, I know there's another word out there because I've proven it. What is it? Off the top of my head, doesn't matter. But that's the point. What is the relationship of identity and indemnification? Again, in this case, clearly, well, I don't know clearly, but should be pretty clear linguistical relationship. Indemnification is remuneration. Somebody does something bad to you, wrong to you, violates your rights, and you want payment for that because they've disrespected your identity, right? And they've done it in a way that it's legally obligated for them to pay you. But your identity is proportional to indemnification. If someone violates your identity, your rights, you're going to want compensation for that. A base is a beginning. And so there's kind of a fun thing. Here's a fun connector. It might freak somebody out, but it's true. Right, so we have the cosmological microwave background. And when this is leftover radiation from the stability of R2 to R3, they'll call it the Big Bang, whatever, it doesn't matter. The point being is it has the same value at all points in space. Where is the center of the universe? There isn't one. So I should be able to point out something that's fundamental physically just to your identity that's true for everybody, right? That ringing in your ears is the same frequency amongst everything, right? The base is the beginning. When somebody says they have tinnitus or tinnitus, or when somebody's at our CIA, let's tune into this frequency and start thinking about stuff, it's the same frequency for everybody. So when you have ringing in your ears, it's universally the same at all points in space. It's contained within all matter. And so people don't have tinnitus or tinnitus or whatever they call that. And it truly is, it's the basis where you have this cosmological microwave background radiation, but that's from R2. And so the remnant from R1 is the ringing in your ears, literally. And it's the same because it's not physically unique to anywhere. And so a base is a beginning, in that when I'm saying these mass contains, the universe learns and it stabilizes these properties internally. Again, the ringing in your ears, that fundamental frequency, is the base of the cosmological microwave background, which is that radiation temperature, which is all contained within you and me and everybody else. But a base is a beginning, and that beginning is vibration, and the physical evidence is that ringing in your ears. It probably is going to freak somebody out, but suck a dick. Beginning commences. Sorality commenced. Right? We're solving sorality in the past tense. The beginning happened. Right? I'm here, you're there. There was a beginning. That beginning's past. It's never coming back. Matter was created. Then it's stabilized. All measurements have happened quite a few minutes after, the 10 to the negative 32nd or 36 seconds or whatever. And all of this stuff we're doing logically is inference of the stabilization of energy into matter, which is again like the negative 10 to the 36 powers of seconds or something. I mean, it's ridiculously nothing. But there's no way else to get to this intuition. But sorality commenced, simply meaning sentience began at some point, which it clearly did. Commence commerce, right? And the linguistical difference and the logical difference is that R in the end, which is very clearly some sort of geometric relationship. The R, just you carry over that curve a little bit and it becomes an N. But commerce and Commerce and commence are the same except for that identity. Commerce, converse. To dialogue is to converse. Sensuality commercializes. Commercial, comedy. Sensuality is comedicality. Right? When that Pakistani or that Indian calls me and he's trying to tell me to go fuck myself and fuck my mother and he's coming out and I can't even articulate it properly, I can't get offended. It's comical. It's literally funny. But those were two big first principle realizations, is that the ringing in your ear is not actually unique to you. And it's the base of, like, when I'm saying you're a satellite, that's like your base receiver thing where you kind of like connect up. And I'm sure the CIA and the FSB and the Secret France team and all these other fucking clusterfuck intelligence agencies, I'm sure you guys know quite a bit about that, don't we? But elasticity is flexibility. Last time we talked about what is elasticity, your ability to deform and come back to its original state. Logically, it's flexibility. Another base pair that people probably don't connect, prior and priority, right? You prioritize based on your priors. If someone says you have priors, they're typically talking about your rap sheet, your criminal record. But it's literally, again, prior with an ITY at the end is priority. So we're looking for another one of these sorority. We're again trying to figure just this connecting thing where sensuality, it will be the connecting verb. It will create this one-way unique logical statement, but then it will give us our new axiom. But sensuality prioritizes, right? Your senses alert you of danger, right? If you're sitting here and, I'm just kind of daydreaming, if the ceiling exploded and my parents started screaming, right? My sensibility would be like, oh, I might be in danger soon. And so your senses prioritize. It's efficient to keep you alive. And then finally for today, what is the relationship of consistency and coherence? Right? Coherence is, to me, more of a physical word. Resonance is coherent. The movement, particle and wave. The wave is the consistency, the continuum aspect. And so consistency, something being the same. Coherence, something making sense. If it's more consistent, consistency is proportional to coherence. If you do the same thing over and over again, you're consistent. If you do the same thing over and over again, people understand what you're doing, I guess. Like if you're doing something weird, it might not be coherent, but it might be, and it still might be technically coherent. I guess it doesn't make sense, but if it doesn't make sense consistently, I guess in some sense it does make sense. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Anything that sounds like a logical circle jerk, I just don't know what to say next, like anybody else. I'm literally progressing the logic step by step. And our goal is to push out this logic so far, and then we turn around and there's a theorem just sitting there and it finishes all of this. But I email in between these videos. I write more theorems in between these videos. So I'm sure science team already knows the finalizing answer because I've already done these steps before. And so I've definitely done all that I need to do to literally kick my feet up and never do anything again. But you guys haven't paid me, and once again, I'm just sitting here just trying to live, and I have an intellectual capacity that is just, there's just no end. There's objectively no end to this. So that's fun, but again, my rights are still violated. I'm still just trying to receive payment. I don't care about publication or public acknowledgement whatsoever. Whoever watches this video finds something within you. I would have tried to appeal to your humanity, but you have none of that. I would try to appeal to your sense of efficiency, but you have none of that. I would try to appeal to your patriotism, but you have none of that. I've tried to straight up offer you money, but you don't care. I'm out of things to do. My rights are violated. The law is broken. I've provided a ton of value. All I'm asking for is a little bit of money, or a time frame in which I can manage the money I already have. So I don't know what else to say, but that's what I have for you on logical derivation for today, and I will see you on the next one.